next thing the rod snaps, and then the next thing the line's under the motor and that snaps.
Oh, no.
Oh, Jesus.
It's just a disaster. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Deep Drop for another episode. Good to be back. Good to be in the thick of it. Oh, the weather's getting better, Adam, and I'm feeling good about it. Luke McCredden here and Adam Ring with me, as always, Adsy. It's hard not to get excited with the sun out.
Yep, sun's out. As we record this, we're only essentially days away from daylight savings. That's exciting.
Stop it.
Just in itself.
Wowza.
I think that's right.
Well,
Is that right?
Well, that's what's happening. What do you think? What do you think when you think daylight saving? I just think after work, 2-hour sessions on the squid or the perch or whatever.
Yeah, or whatever. Even
Snappers.
just down on the reddies or snapper or whatever it is. It's kids whinging that they got to go to bed when it's still light.
Yeah.
It's just the whole world just messed up for the best possible reason. It's the only day of your life every year where you don't mind losing an hour's sleep.
No, exactly.
Like it's a pretty special time of year.
It's great. It's great. Anyway, we've got lots to go on with over the next few months of daylight savings ads. So we're going to be talking plenty about that. But as you know, and as people who have listened to the show know, we talk a lot about whatever's in our heads, and it's obviously relates to fishing. Now, we don't always reach a sensible answer with what we talk about ads. We don't always know the answer, but that's what we bring it up for. And yeah, we have a bit of fun with it, but some are more serious topics. But the beauty of this is we open it up, and you guys out there listening set us straight more often than not, and I love it. And it's not an aggressive setting of setting straight. It's just a hey, I've tried this or I've done that and it works and this is what happened. That is what it is all about, Adam, in my mind.
It's 100% what it's all about. And whether we struggle to come up with even a point to the conversation or not, it doesn't matter. We're talking about fishing.
Yeah.
We're talking about maybe some of the things that fly under the radar when it comes to fishing. We talk about some of those things. You just sit down and words start falling out of your mouth and the fishing's maybe not so great.
Yeah. Yes, that's when it happens. Or on the drive. The road trip too is a good...
The road trip,
That's a good one for that, yeah. Anyway, but what we're doing tonight is something a little bit different and I'm looking forward to it. We've got a very special guest on the show because, and a lot of people listening will know that we have done a lot of things in this journey with Wind Against Tide. Great podcast, great bunch of guys, and we've done a live show. We've jumped onto their podcast at times, ads. We've had Dave Standing on the show before, but tonight he joins us again, and it's always good to speak to someone who is a real legit angler.
Yeah, because we sort of come up with a lot of wacky theories, and it's nice to bounce them off someone who kind of has a clue, even just to remind us that we're not that far off the mark.
Exactly.
Or it is complete horseshit what we're saying, and we need to check it.
But it's great because sometimes we surprise ourselves, as you say. Like we've had Al McGlashan on the show, Andrew Hart's been on the show a number of times, and we've often brought up what we've thought are fairly silly sort of topics, and they've agreed sometimes or have gone along with it. And we're like, wow, okay, we're not that far off the mark. But anyway, Dave Standing, you know him and love him from Wind Against Tide, but also plenty of great fishing video content ads over on the Wind Against Tide YouTube channel and Instagram account. So go and check that out if you haven't already, but gets it done. When it comes to, I think snapper and bluefin tuna are absolutely what he just... Actually, I should try throw like swordfish and marlin, like blue water. Very, very, very good. Very good.
Yeah, he's one of the guys out there that he's a thinking man's fisherman. I like to say. There's a lot of guys that just go and do it.
Yeah.
Dave's always got a purpose. He's always trying to figure out what the next little 1%er is.
Yeah.
Not afraid to try stuff. Not afraid to tackle those weird little situations where it's easy to pack up and go home. He's still like, no, got to get it done. And I appreciate it because I am one of those people that very much goes, you know what, this is shit, I'm out.
and then don't think about it for the rest of the week. Nope. And you're like, well, what could you have done better at it? No, I don't know. It's out of my head already.
Yeah, that was shit. The moon, full moon that was blowing from the east. There was a low tide. It was a high tide. The tide was moving, and if it wasn't moving, it was slack. All common reasons for why fishing shit.
Yeah.
And it's the wrong time of year.
Yeah. And clearly someone sabotaged my gear because, it didn't catch fish.
Yeah, that's right. Knots failed. There's bananas on board. Like, fucking hell.
Everything. But nah, Dave usually doesn't just let it go. He'll think about it and make it work the next time. But anyway, so Dave Standing from Wind Against Tide joins us on the Deep Drop. Let's jump into it. Dave Standing, welcome to the Deep Drop.
Luke and Adam, it's always a pleasure to be on board with the Wind Against... the Deep Drop podcast.
Oh, hang on.
I nearly dropped my
Wow.
podcast. Wind Against Tide, people.
Now that was
Happy to be on with you boys tonight.
That was a shameless plug or a very well crafted little plug, Dave. No, it's great to have you here, mate. And I should say welcome back because you have been on the show before, and it's always an absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
There's times where Adam and I just need a bit of, I guess, someone who knows what they're talking about. So
It's the easiest way to put it.
I think I might actually be your in case of emergency break glass guest.
No, not at all. In fact,
we can't get anyone, Adam. Get Dave, right?
quick.
Mate, we only had to go through about 6 or 7 other people before we gave you the call. So it's all right.
That's not bad. That's better than normal. Yeah.
No, I know we've people who listen and have heard episodes we've done with you, Dave, including, we did the live show together. So anyone that was there, we often reference. We do throwbacks to when we used to do community radio and call you up, and you used to come in as well, Dave. And it was I always look forward to speaking to you because not only are you a good bloke, and that's the nicest thing I'm going to say all night, so just don't get used to it.
Yes.
But you are
I'll soak that one in.
You are an absolute gun when it comes to our local waterways, and forgive me if this isn't quite accurate, Dave, but I think Western Port and then Bass Strait is just your absolute wheelhouse when it comes to fishing. Is that fair to say?
Oh, well, you are being kind, but I literally was just saying to you before we started recording, and I'm not afraid to admit it, I reckon I'm having the worst fishing run I've had in some time. Nothing seems to be working for me at the moment, no matter what I target or do. And it happens to the best of us, doesn't it, guys?
Oh, mate, absolutely. And I welcome that to the Deep Drop ads because it's fair to say that we kick off most shows by saying we're struggling at the moment.
Oh, massive. And I am too. I actually I've fished twice in a couple of weeks. So Dave, even just getting out on the water is a bit of an issue for me. And so I went solo for the first time in a couple of weeks on the weekend just gone, as you know, before we record this. And I donated 0. Didn't even look like getting a fish.
Oh, what were you chasing?
I was perching. Still got nothing.
Perching?
Yeah. Got nothing.
Searching for perch.
I reckon if I went perching, I'd probably get nothing too, so I wouldn't stress too much. But yeah, I was out on Sunday, just gone. I don't know if you're releasing this one fairly soon, Luke, but it should be still pretty relevant information.
Yep.
It's been another incredible run of giant tuna coming past Port Phillip and Western Port, which used to be a novelty, but now it's becoming a yearly occurrence. And I can't help myself but get out there and chase those. And last 3 fish I've hooked, snapped a gaff and a rod and lost one, broke the leader off on one of them, and
hang on.
pulled the hooks on another.
Let's rewind and break this down one by one. You snapped a gaff
and a rod. Is that on the same fish?
Yes, on the same fish.
Oh, stop it.
That's even better.
The video's out there, but yeah, we were actually off Lake's entrance trolling one of the oil rigs out there. So it would have been a pretty cool fish because I don't know of too many that have been caught trolling lures in that area. We got one to the boat very green, and I slung a gaff into it and it went screaming under the boat. And I'm hanging on for dear life. Well, I'm just thinking I'm not letting go of this gaff. And the thing just exploded in my hands. And
wow.
Poor old Joey, my Wind Against Tide co-host, was on the rod, and he didn't get the rod out of the harness or out of strike tag quick enough. And next thing, the rod snaps. And then the next thing, the line's under the motor, and that snaps.
Oh, no.
Oh, Jesus.
It's just a disaster.
And on the other end of the line was one of your favourite spreader bars. That
was the curse.
Yeah,
So-
you know what, Dave? If you didn't have that spreader bar, you wouldn't have snapped your gaff, you wouldn't have snapped your rod, you would have landed the fish of a lifetime, and you would have gone in a happy man.
You're probably right.
Lesson
but
learned.
we did a rough calculation. We reckon in total there was probably about a grand's worth of gear broken in that one moment,
Far out.
along with our hearts.
What a moment! Did you have that sort of? Did you have that moment afterwards where there was just silence for a bit, and you just looked at each other, thinking, "What the fuck just happened?"
Yeah, I was just on my knees, just like, I can't believe that's just happened. Yeah,
So why Lakes Entrance?
one of those shockers.
Because this is an interesting one, Dave, to launch straight into it. Because you're right, we've got the best bluefin bite we've had in a while outside of Port Phillip Heads and Western Port, and you went to Lakes Entrance. It's good effort.
Oh, this was a few months ago when the sword fishing run was happening. And we did go there for sword fishing, but the last year or two, there's been quite strong rumours and sightings of tuna off these oil rigs off Lakes Entrance, and we always had as a backup plan, put the lures and stuff in the boat. And the last day we were going swordfish fishing, it was a bit lumpy, and we started heading out to the sword grounds, and we were just like, this is just going to be painful. So we diverted to the closest oil rig and started trolling around that, and my depth sounder started lighting up with fish. And if you're in a location that it's not known for it, you think, geez, this definitely looks like tuna on my sounder, but could it be? And then we did a few laps around, and a rod took off, which we were just shocked when that happened. But yeah, pretty interesting.
You said you got it boat side. Was it a proper fish?
Yep. Yeah, probably 80 to 100, I would say. Yeah,
Wow.
Good one.
That is good. So why is it just rumours? Is it just not people getting out there much into that area? Obviously, it's a fair way offshore.
Well, that rig's only 35k or so, just over 30k. The one we went to, which was snapper rig. So not really that far. It's just, I don't know. It's just one of those things. Once someone starts doing it and it gets out onto social media, it'll become more of a thing, and it'll be great for Lakes Entrance tourism, and great for guys that are out that side of town that usually have to drive a long way. So they'll have their own fishery.
Because there has been a few big bluefin caught on deep drop gear for swords over the last few years, hasn't there?
Yeah, no, there has. Guys dropping baits, squid and stuff into the depths for swordfish have caught a handful of big bluefin and a couple of big eye tuna too, I believe. So yeah, they're definitely out there. They come through there. The commercial longline fleet fish wide of that area quite frequently and catch tons and tons and tons of them. So it's they're definitely there. It's just it's another fishery that'll probably fire up in the next few seasons, I'd say.
We had Al McGlashan on the show, I don't know, a few weeks back, and we were talking about the tuna fishery, and he mentioned that yellowfin tuna is the next, because we sort of took the piss saying if we get yellowfin through Bass Strait, the New South Wales anglers will be spewing, because that's all they're left hanging their hat on. But have you ever, or have you heard, I mean, you're pretty connected out in that area, Dave, is it something that you've heard of to this point? Because Al's pretty confident there's fish in that area already.
Yeah, I had mates that were out this season dropping in Victoria for swordfish, and they had big yellowfin blowing up around the boat. Several years ago, we were out. This is probably going way back to around about probably 2014-ish, trolling for trying to catch marlin out there, and we were trolling around one of the rigs, and we knew one of the guys working on the rig, and he was up on the platform, and he's telling us, there's yellowfin around the rig, and we were cutting laps, and he literally was like, you're going through them. I can see them splitting between, like, as your boat goes through, they split sideways, and they're not showing any interest in your lures. So
yeah, wow.
They're definitely out there. And I've heard a couple of rumours even as far down as Port Welshpool, like the islands out there. There's been a couple of very strong rumours of maybe one or two caught while guys were live baiting for kingfish.
How good's that? Yeah. I love that. It's happening. We're taking over the world. It's all happening.
We are.
But it's pretty cool. I wonder if it could become a reliable sort of fishery, and obviously they're pretty heavily influenced by what they're eating, and also currents and temperatures and that sort of thing as well. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously enough to entice them to come in. If they're down as far as Welsh Bulls, pretty deep into the straight there.
Yeah, but you do get you get the currents push around there. Like I've been out there and the water's just cobalt, bluey purple, and there's flying fish in it.
That's
which,
pretty
you
cool.
know,
That's awesome.
that's a species you typically associate with your very warm,
Yep.
clean currents that yellowfin are also in. And
Totally.
I think at the moment they're getting yellowfin up off Bermagui on the inside of Montague Island, which they haven't been there for years and years in any sort of numbers.
Yep.
You know, it used to be called Yellowfin Alley or something like that anyway.
Yeah.
And they used to absolutely smash the fish there.
Yeah.
Probably too much smashing went on, to be honest. So they disappeared from there for a little bit, but they're making a comeback.
Isn't that a fishery? And Luke, you and I have spoken about it a little bit over the course of the podcast, sort of dreaming of yellowfin and remembering the days, you know, the early days in the tackle shop for us where yellowfin was arguably a bigger season than marlin season, where you'd get just as many boats from Victoria heading up to Burmy to hit the yellowfin over the marlin. Like, it was a legitimate, enormous game fishery.
Yeah. Well, I remember there was a period there because a big yellowfin, I've caught little yellowfin, but a big yellowfin is one of my bucket list fish, like a really proper one. But back in those days in the shop ads, remember our old mate Scotty Harper used to head up there chasing yellowfin.
Yeah, that's right,
you're right.
yeah.
It was purely yellowfin. It wasn't interested in marlin, so to speak, when they were on, because I think they're that sort of species, aren't they? If you know they're there, you would just block everything else out just to chase them. They're magnificent fish.
Yeah, the only issue at the moment is like we have these big tuna on our doorstep, and for someone like myself who at the moment I get, you know, probably 1 to 2 of unlucky days a week where I could possibly go fishing, it's a lot easier to go 2k down the road to Stony Point boat ramp than it is to drive up the coast chasing those things. But they do look like it's definitely on the list. And the great thing about them is they're very susceptible to topwater casting, which is
big time.
Which is such an exciting way to target fish.
Yeah, there's some epic videos of in the States chasing yellowfin on stick baits and stuff, and it's pretty exciting. I mean, you're right. It doesn't matter what we always talk about it. It doesn't matter what species it is. If it's hitting the surface, it's friggin' exciting. Yeah,
and a funny thing about that fishery, tackle wise, given you both in the industry, I find it pretty interesting. There was a lure called a blue water squidgy livey, which is just a big paddle tail soft plastic with a big lead head on it, and they got released years and years ago, and nobody wanted a bar of them. They ended up being deleted from the range, and you know, I picked a few up in a bargain bin, you know, because nobody wanted them. Now, probably about 5 to 10 years ago, people suddenly started catching yellowfin and bluefin on them up the coast, but they were no longer made by Shimano. And the original squidgy blue waters were selling for $300 to $400 a lure. And now we've got all these copycats that have remade the molds, and they're selling them by the thousands.
Yeah,
so
I remember clearly that period where they were deleted, but then all of a sudden they were an absolute gold nugget. Like people want, and we had in the shop ads, I'm sure you remember it, we had a bunch of them. But you're right, Dave. Prior to that, they were in dump bins for $5 for 3 or whatever it was. And I remember, and I remember getting a phone call because we were getting hammered by people chasing them, and we had limited stock left. We really were down to the last few. And I actually got a phone call from one of the guys who worked for Shimano at the time chasing them and spent and bought them back because he wanted them so desperately because he used them offshore. It was it was bizarre. It went from couldn't sell them for 50 cents to we could have put a price tag of $1,000 on them and sold them hand over fist. It was weird, but yeah, obviously a pretty effective lure offshore.
Yeah, but another interesting insight into how fishermen, a lot of things are like a fad in that nobody down here still uses them at all. Yep. But they'd work, 100% they would. But it's just, it's a New South Wales thing at the moment, and I'm sure once someone starts doing it down here and publicises it, they'll become popular down here as well.
I'm so glad you brought that up because Ads and I have spoken about, there's probably, just off the top of my head, probably half a dozen things we've brought up over the deep drop journey that is exactly that, where it's, for some reason, I'll use like Soft Vibes is probably one, Ads that we've brought up about. They're heavily popular in some states, but they're just not huge down here. Prawn
Prawn
lures
lures, yeah,
is
another one.
another one.
It's
It just seems crazy that it makes sense. Everyone's got different fisheries as you go around the country, but for something to be so effective and so popular in one area and just sort of next to nothing in another is. What do you reckon it comes down to, Dave, from your view? I mean, we've put our spin on it quite a few times, but love to hear your thoughts on and using that one as example. Potentially, you've said that you'd be confident using that offshore in the blue water, for example. Like, what is it that'll make people have a go?
I reckon it's just we're so habitual, and a lot of us have limited time out on the ocean or rivers or lakes or wherever we are, and we want to have something tied on that we have confidence in. And if people in our network or, even on social media or whatever aren't having success on a lure, it's a big call to stick your neck out and try something new. So it just takes one brave person, and then it starts getting a bit of publicity, and then everyone else will follow the lead. But yeah, even myself, like I've got a few of these blue water liveys to use as an example, but I still struggle to put them into my spread of lures because, I've got 5 lures. I can only put 5 lures out, and I've got 5 lures running that have been successful for me in the past. So, but yeah, it takes a bit of bravery to forge a new path.
It's one of the most fascinating parts of this whole fishing game, because sticking with the theme of bluefin, you go back to when, say, Portland first really started to hit its straps. The only thing anyone used was killer vibes, which are essentially, they're just a blue water lipless crank. You run them in close, it digs in hard, they sit right next to the engine, and you just cycled through the colours. The colours would change each season. I can picture that depending on what bait's around, what stage of the season we're at. But then we progressed from there into solely a hard body fishery. And I would say at the moment it's progressed again where it's now predominantly a skirt fishery. I wonder, I seriously wonder if you were to go out there and just pop a couple of killer vibes next to the engine, are you going to catch fish at the same rate at what you did 15 years ago when it first exploded in Victoria?
I think so. I don't. In fact, maybe the fish haven't seen them in a little while now. They'd be popular again. Yeah. It's actually funny. I got these skirt popped up. A lure maker that I was sort of following started making a skirt which was like a killer vibe. It was like a killer vibe head, and it had a skirted body.
That's interesting.
I thought, that's good. That's going to be really good. So, it was called Jets Lures was the company. And so I grabbed a couple of those, and I thought, I'm going to get on these early before anyone else gets one. The fish won't have seen them down here. And I grabbed a couple, and straight away they started working really well. I caught the first bluefin on those lures, ever since he'd been making them. And then I started catching barrels on them. And then, funny, all the tackle stores then started stocking them, and they became pretty popular. But yeah, that killer vibe shape, definitely a winning formula. And I think one of the issues with going back to the bluefin fishery, because that's pretty much all I seem to do these days. But anyway, bit of an issue with hard bodies can be hookups. So the fact that this was like a hybrid skirt with the hard body subsurface action provided really good hookup rates and still got the bite. So that was something pretty interesting.
I've got a couple of questions I want to throw to you, Dave, but before we move away entirely from bluefin just for a minute, something that someone like yourself gets out there a lot and gets it done, right? And so lots of people will follow Win Against Tide or your own channels or whatever it is and know that you make it happen. Give us your top 3 bluefin lures.
Would be a JB Dingo in Big Dog or Blue Dog or whatever you want to call it, which is just a pilchard coloured skirt. A Pakula medium sprocket in like an evil colour, probably. A new one I've been running lately is a Bass Straight Lures, which is a bullet head, which I run out at Shotgun, which is a local guy, and he makes a really nice lure. So been running them. And always run a diver or one of the the subsurface type lures in a short corner, which they do get a lot of bites. But I lost a fish about a week ago on a diving lure, and Yeah, as soon as it hooked up on that, I was like, oh, God, I'm worried about this. But they definitely do pull a bite, and it gives you a bit of confidence covering multiple parts of the ocean, depth-wise.
Yeah.
Just gives you that confidence having something like that out. Yeah.
For sure. I want to throw back to the start. When we've started recording this, you said you're in a bit of a slump. I find it fascinating because I know you're a thinker. You think about your fishing and you go out there with a plan. And I'm curious to know that someone like yourself in a slump, you actually mentioned bluefin and snapper slump. What do? Do you just stick to your guns, stick to what you know, and just keep going, or do you sort of overthink? Are you the sort of person who second guesses things once you get in a bit of a slump, or what do you go from here?
I'm at the stage of starting to overthink it, but if I take a step back, I think a lot of it is timing related. I just haven't had the right timing, and that's because life gets busy, and at the moment my life's really busy. I used to be able to sneak off midweek a little bit more. That makes a massive difference if you can get on the water when there's less boats. At the moment, I've really only got weekends available, but I have definitely put a bit of thought into it, and there's a few little plans I've hatched which I've put into practice a little bit. Like I was mentioning to you, Luke, on Sunday we had live pilchards going down onto a bait ball and trying stuff like that. So yeah, I do mix it up. I mean, the definition of insanity is to repeat the same thing and expect a different result. So there comes a point where you have to change it up a little bit. But at the end of the day, I do know that I do most things right, and it's just a matter of working really hard and having a little bit of luck fall my way.
Can't win them all, I guess. It's a great it's a great mindset though, because this is why fishing's so great. It's not the same result every time you go out, even if you put the same thing into practice and you've got it all set up perfectly. It's not always going to happen. But no, it's good. Thanks for that insight. I was curious as to a man of your fishing stature, Dave, how you tackle the. What about you said snapper as well? So what? It's just not happening for you at the moment, or is it? Or is that sort of down to potentially they're a bit fickle at the moment in Western Port?
Yeah, look, to be honest, I've had one crack at a tide that I like the look of, where I would have thought, geez, I should have got a fish off that and didn't. The other ones have probably been a bit half-assed. The wind's come up from the wrong direction or whatever. But probably a lot of the big issue at the moment, or it was up until Saturday, it's been really hard to catch squid. And I haven't got any squid in the freezer, so I've had to go out and catch squid first of all in Western Port. And that's been eating. The time it's taken me to catch them has been then eating into the snapper fishing time. Normally this time of year, spring's when the squid really fire up. And finally on Saturday, I found a little patch and, caught a couple of squid, and they'd have, 3 or 4 following them in, which is a bit of an indication that they're starting to go into spawning mode and really fire up. So hopefully that's the start of things to come. But yeah, before that, they were really hard work. It's
funny you bring that up because it's been similar down my way. It's been a little bit trickier than I would typically think for late September. But for whatever reason, but at the same time, there has been a few patches of eggs that we've sort of seen in the water, so it's going to happen, and they're sort of there. But I kind of associate this time of year for just squid going stupid and just like jumping into your boat.
Yeah, I think a lot of them seem to be holding offshore. Even the last couple of years, like the guys that gummy bash off, Cape Shank and that, they catch 40, 50 centimetre hood squid off the bottom, like southern calamari, in good numbers. So I do one.
Were you with me that day, Ads? We were getting them on like 140 mil flick baits. We were chucking around for kingfish or snapper or something, and we were getting calamari coming right up off a bommy.
Yeah, and I've hooked them off the bottom on like Lacana style jigs, and they're aggressive. They're gonna eat these sort of things. But I find it interesting with the success of the bluefin fishery. Obviously, there's more boats offshore in Bass Strait now than what probably there has been since the height of the Mako shark days. Do you think that's going to lead to anybody fishing for anything else bar bluefin, kingfish, or sharks? Because there is a fleet of charter boats that work out there, and pretty well their business relies on snapper. We know that you can go out there, in good times of the year and bring home and put into the freezer some of the best flathead fillets you'll ever get. You can catch calamari off the bottom, especially with how much fresh water's gone through those bays and the port in the last 18 months. Those offshore fisheries have to be in as good a nick as they've ever been. We know this time of year snapper will hang out there waiting for the right moon and the right water temperatures and currents to move into the bay to do their thing. Surely that's a whole part of the Victorian system that just hasn't been unlocked yet.
Yeah, spot on. I've actually been talking about this with mates the last few weeks. I've said it multiple times. I would love to go out of Western Port, which is where I predominantly fish, and target snapper on soft plastics and stuff and Lucanus jigs and whatnot. As they're waiting to come in on those inshore reefs. Like, I think there could be a fishery out there, much like what you see up in New South Wales, Coffs Harbour, and those areas where you can go out and just chuck plastics and stuff around and catch big offshore snapper. And the other one is mulloway. I mean, where do the mulloway go? They've got to be going offshore.
That's right, and they're typically an offshore migrating species. They have to be there.
Yeah, I was about to say when you said about that similar to sort of up around Coffs and that mid-north coast, if enough people had a crack for the snapper offshore here, I've got no doubt that there'd be some mulloway caught. No doubt in the world. Yep.
It's crazy that in this day and age we've got untapped fisheries that, I mean, we know they're there. They have to be there. But people just aren't doing it at the moment.
Yeah. It probably comes down to that mindset of, what you're comfortable with, isn't it? Like you're either fishing for snapper in the bay, or if you're heading offshore, it's probably just tuna or maybe a gummy shark or something you're chasing. But I think the great thing is that's 100% fine. You can do whatever you want. Like whatever you are happy with and comfortable doing, go for it. But there are lots of people out there willing to mix it up, try something new. And that's what I love. And I love hearing reports or even having these discussions that we're having, because we know in theory it is a fishery that is there. But the beauty is it's probably something that hasn't really been touched yet and trialled. And again, like we always do, Ads, we tend to hear some reports from people through Instagram or people listening to the show. And as always, we encourage it, because we quite often will say, I wonder if anyone's doing this. And we'll get some great feedback from listeners saying, yeah, check this out, which is just awesome. So let's take the opportunity now, throw it out there. If there's anyone listening that has done a bit of exactly what Dave's saying, just a bit of the snapper fishing with plastics or jigs and whatever it is, just outside the heads, either outside of Western Port or Port Phillip, I'd love to hear it. Would absolutely love to hear it. And you can be anonymous. We won't. We won't give away spots.
Happy to make up a name for you.
I guarantee you there's someone listening right now going, shut up.
No one does it. It's not worth it.
Yes. My secret fishery, please don't out it.
Yeah, but it's still one of those ones where still got to be able to go do it, right? So it's probably not something that every man and his dog will go and do, but I'd be so excited to hear some reports of people doing that sort of thing. We've had some great feedback, Ads, haven't we, over the last few months from the snapper fishery down west out of Warrnambool and that area on jigs, like deep water jigging for snapper, which like that shit excites me, man. I just think that's so cool. And I love that that's a popular thing down that way.
Yeah, and it's
each little pocket of the state's got their own thing, which is cool.
Exactly, because it makes travelling a heap more entertaining. If the bluefin aren't on or the weather's a bit, too crazy outside, you can sort of hug in close and still do some pretty cool things. But I don't know, the snapper just seemed to be a species in Victoria where we know one way. And I get it. It catches fish. I get it. So it's so hard to steer away from what typically works. And, especially this day and age where a lot of the time you don't even need to go fishing to work out where the fish are with the use of social media and all those groups, which I think are brilliant. I think they are great for fishing. It probably, it has its pros and cons like everything. But Dave, when do you typically start snapper fishing? I mean, a bluefin fishery at this time of year completely throws a spanner into a works, because for someone like yourself, you're going to capitalise on 100-kilo bluefin over a few snapper that you're going to be able to catch consistently for the next 4 months. But can you go too early? Can you put too much time into trying to figure out these snapper that haven't been easy, especially the last 5 or 6 years. They've been the toughest that I can remember, generally speaking. Can you go too early?
Oh, absolutely can. Generally this time of year, there's a lot of hit and miss fishing, but I think everyone goes at this time of year knowing full well you're not going to have cricket score catches of snapper like you do in the peak season, but the fish that you do get this time of year, it's a lot more satisfying, I'd say, and they're generally a bit bigger on average, I would say, but it's funny, like, and one of my good mates, he caught a lovely snapper about 70 centimetres off the rocks this morning, and he's the actual reason I've been snapper fishing lately, because he loves eating them, and he wanted to take some home to his family, and he's cherished that fish that he caught this morning because he hasn't had access to that fishery for nearly a whole year now, and for him to go out, and especially off the rocks at this time of year, he's put 4 or 5 trips in now, and he finally caught that snapper, and sure, he could wait a couple of months and go out and do it easily, but going out right now, he's achieved it's a big achievement for him, and it's a lot more satisfying. So, but yeah, the reverse side of that is you don't catch him for multiple trips this time of year, and you end up getting burnt out before the season proper begins, and that's no fun either.
Snapper burnout, it's a thing, eh?
Yeah. Yeah. Everything burnout.
Yeah. Burnout.
I would stop. I would have quit fishing, I think, in the run I've been having lately, if I wasn't,
Dave's had a fishing burnout.
The secret to success is just dumb, dogged determination. There it is. Just keep going, even when it's a stupid idea.
There's Dave's words of wisdom for anyone tuning in.
No just intelligence.
Go. Yeah.
No refining techniques.
Just go.
Just dumbly go. Keep going like you're some sort of fishing machine.
Just suck it up and go for it.
Law of averages.
Yeah, that's a fair call. All right, what's next for you then? What are your sights set on? Are you still going to try and get out on these tuna, or are you going to knuckle down on some snapper now? What's your next month look like for you, Dave?
Yeah, I am. It's like, I've never caught a big tuna before. It's gone back to that stage. I have to get one now before this season's over, and it has to be a local, when we say local, a fish from Central Bass Strait. So be doing that, and then, probably switch over and do a little bit of snapper stuff soon after that when they kick into gear a bit more.
I know you're a sucker for casting at these tuna as well. What time of year do you typically... Is that a summer thing for you, or will you do it given any opportunity if they're sort of busting up the surface now?
I was casting poppers on the weekend.
Clearly that didn't work well for you.
That's right. No, probably the really good topwater bluefin and kingfish fishery starts about mid-December and goes through till about March, April.
Yeah, nice. It's and from all I know, it's kind of it's a bit of a throwaway line because we're all saying it at the moment, but it's shaping up to be a ripper offshore this summer. Yep. Everything is pointing to it being a really good one, so that'll obviously be good for the tuna, and also the kingfish. I think will really, hopefully, we'll see a really big spike in the kingfish fishery. Yeah,
well, we've got the warmer weather pattern emerging this year, so maybe we'll have less of the unstable weather that we've had the last few years. So that may promote good fishing, I hope.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards that too. With everything they predicting being a little bit warmer, I think that's going to be great for the kingfish. It's going to be really interesting to see what it does to the bluefin. Yeah,
that water that's pushing through too, that from all accounts is going to just be so nutrient rich and full of life. But I mean, it's already like it's so full of life out offshore as it is. Like to think that we get a really good push, really good current through that brings even more in. It could be unbelievable.
Yeah, no, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. But yeah, if it gets any better, we'll have all these New South Welshies and
they will,
and Queenslanders coming into our waters.
We should. Can we put a thing at the boat ramps where they now have to pay? So anyone from... We've just lost all our New South Wales listeners. There was so many times growing up where we were all paying for our ramps here, and you go up up to New South Wales and go, how good's this? All the ramps are free.
And they had
we recoup some of that money now.
100 times better facilities as well.
Yeah. No, it's
Yeah, I
good.
think
Come
it's
down
only
and
fair.
enjoy
Yeah,
it.
it's only fair.
Come down and enjoy it. Now, Dave, before we let you go, there is going to be a weekend that you're not fishing, and I believe that weekend is the weekend of the Melbourne Boat Show, where Wind Against Tide will be. Now, I know you were there with a big sort of setup last year. Is that the plan this year, or are you just doing some stage stuff?
No, we're going to have a stall. Still setting up the logistics, but kind of replicate what we had last year, which was we had our podcasting studio basically moved to the Docklands for the weekend.
Yeah,
and,
nice.
Last year we had some merch available, so we'll do that again this year, and maybe a couple of our fishing tackle friends might have some of their gear in our stall as well. So
awesome.
there'll be that, and we'll try and grab some of the big names that are going to be at the show and get them on the podcast.
Very good. No, I can't wait. Now, the little birdie tells me the Deep Drop might make an appearance on the main stage there at some point as well. So that'll be a bit of fun. We're looking forward to hanging out and spending some time with not only you guys, Dave, but obviously the punters that are there at the show. It's always cool mixing with the folk, and hopefully we've got some listeners down there that can come and say hello to all of us too, because it's what we're about.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely get you guys to come in and sit down and have a chat while we're there. And last year was fantastic. The interactions we had with guys coming up and saying g'day. Like, we had guys come up from Tasmania, and stoked to meet everyone. So looking forward.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a great time. Now we also need to plug in another live show, I reckon, somewhere along the line, fellas. We're overdue.
I was to say, we're getting towards that time again. That was good fun.
It was good fun.
Somewhere tropical with good fishing.
Hell yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's interesting. Anyone that's new here, we had only a few months ago, we kicked off our first ever live show, and it was the Deep Drop and Wind Against Tide, and it was a hell of a night. It was actually a fantastic night. Great turnout. Loads of beer.
Yeah. That's what made it a good night.
And plenty of laughs. I reckon we've been talking about the next show, and I know there's a few options there, but we'll get it happening soon, and you guys will be the first to know. Dave Standing, thanks so much for your time tonight. Really appreciate it. Always an absolute pleasure to chat to you about fishing, and we'll see you on the water soon, eh?
I'll look forward to it, gentlemen, and hopefully next time we do see each other on the water, I'll actually be catching something.
You and me both, mate.